when we're looking at some final presentation examples, these are made for live in-class presentations. So you don't see recordings of the students giving their presentations here because they were doing that and their activities live with other students. So what you would be doing is you'd be creating similar online spaces, hopefully with multiple pages, and you would be including videos, like my video here, at different points to walk students through what you're talking about. So let's look at this awesome presentation. This is about Tolkien's runes and how he's using language, what languages are inspiring him, and whether or not there's any linguicism, that is language bias, in the presentations and the languages that he's creating in Lord of the Rings. So, as part of that, this student began with video clips and had everyone watch these different video clips, one with English subtitles and one without, to try to understand the meaning of the language just by the sound of it. Whether it was harsh, whether it was musical, whether it was happy, whether it was angry, what emotions, what messages are being given off through the languages that Tolkien created. And that led to a research project on the children of Hurin. So this is something that Tolkien had been making and writing while he was still a soldier in World War I. Very, very early. It's one of his earliest writings, but he never finishes it. His son, Christopher Tolkien, finishes it and publishes it much later. And in this book, one of the things that Tolkien's really working through, because he's still a college student, is this development of the Elvish language. And that there's some language bias. That is, harsh guttural sounds tend to be used for languages that are treated as lesser, and more sibilant sounds are associated with languages that are higher. And so there's this sort of language bias in how it's sounding. So, second activity for this was guessing which characters were villains and heroes based on their names, because the names were part of that language creation. And so looking through these and seeing what is being associated with something that's good, and also places, and what's being associated with something that's bad. These are excellent activities because after hearing sort of an abstract discussion of what language is doing, to actually participate in that and see if, when you're sending it out, when you're saying these different words, you can figure out who's a hero and who's a villain, what's a good place, what's a bad place. That brings everything that the argument is saying together, because if you can recognize that just on your own, then that language coding is there. And finally, we see the conclusion. Now notice how text is presented here. It's very short. It's in tables. It's in short sentences. It's set apart with spaces. So as your eye is moving down, it's visually jumping from one point to another. It's not put together in a paragraph style the way you would see in an APA or MLA paper. That's really important because when you're reading online, you read sentences and you read images and you read tables. You don't read paragraph by paragraph the way you typically do in, say, a written paper or a book. So that's exactly what you should be thinking about when you're creating your online space. Breaking up your text into sentences. And notice how there's different sizes and different colors used to make different points. That's really important because that draws your eye. The online space is all about how you're using the eye, how you're interacting in ways that, say, a paper page is not. And then, of course, it has a works cited at the bottom, which is very important. And you would also use this for any online spaces and links that you have. Like this doesn't have links to other sites because this was done in class, whereas yours is an online space. So yours should have links and interactive activities that are embedded here for the viewer to do. So now that you've seen the sort of thing that you can do, let's go back and look at the way that we're going to get there.